The other day, we discovered that this i9-14900K had fried in just 3 months because this Corsair pre-built used a proprietary BIOS version that didn't allow us to install the latest microcode. See, even though technically this is an Asus motherboard, this $5,000 pre-built uses something called an OEM BIOS, which is a locked-down, restricted version of the original BIOS that ensures that Corsair can set their exact settings that they want and prevent tweaking from consumers that they don't want, which cuts down on liability, which makes sense from a business perspective, but only if your BIOS version, this one is 9046, has the latest microcode, which with 0x12b, it definitely doesn't, which resulted in this CPU in just 3 months being susceptible to the Intel instability problems. That was patched through the new 0x12f microcode, but as we can't get that because you have to have the Corsair specific BIOS, even though it's been available on Asus's website for the past 5 months when the patch got released, which means the ARM-made CPU that our customer just got will likely just fry again. By the way, Intel did a really good job with the RMA process. They sent a new CPU before sending the old one back, like within 2 days of requesting it, as this was actually a box CPU that our customer had to replace previously just 3 months ago. And after reaching out to Corsair about the lack of a BIOS update through an email, a phone call, and even posting it on social media, the only response I got was that their engineers are working on it. But this update's been out for 5 months and they still don't have it. So as our customer doesn't want to wait for this CPU to fail in his $5,000 gaming PC, he ended up picking up a brand new motherboard so we can avoid all this proprietary stuff. So to save the system, the first thing we got to do is pull out this GPU, followed by our cooler. This way we can unplug and pull out our customer's motherboard. This way we can harvest the good stuff like our customer's RAM modules, along with his 2 SSDs, and finally cooler mounting hardware. This way we can transfer all that over with our brand new CPU over to our new motherboard. So their motherboard prepped, we could get it installed, but before we do that, we need to actually remove this power supply, because it turns out our customer replaced it when he thought maybe his old one was causing an issue, which it definitely wasn't. So let's pull this out when we don't have a motherboard in the way. And I'm not gonna put the old one in just yet, because if I want to make my life easy, I'd much rather install my motherboard with no cables in the way, as this makes it easier to pre-wire the front panel headers to get those out of the way before plugging in our modular power supply cables up front and running those back, which creates natural cable routing when we plug everything into our power supply. So let's slide it in and reinstall our cooler with some fresh thermal paste. And then the final thing to rebuild this system is to go ahead and take this GPU, get that slotted in, and get it plugged in so we can go ahead and fire the system up, where before we boot the Windows, we need to check the BIOS. So let's go ahead and press F1 on startup, where we'll see that we're running on BIOS version 1820, where unlike that OEM BIOS, for this particular motherboard, we have the brand new microcode 0x12f, which should hopefully keep the CPU alive for more than 3 months. And unlike when we had this fried CPU installed, not only does the NVIDIA app actually install, but we can actually load our drivers this time, thanks to us no longer having a fried CPU caused by a proprietary OEM BIOS.